An old legend in the West recounts the account of the apparition rider, who is said to come once every age. They're a condemned soul reviled to ride the earth gathering Satan's arrangements. Quite a long time back, a phantom rider named Carter Slade was shipped off the town of San Vinganza to get an agreement worth 1,000 fiendish spirits. Yet this agreement was strong to such an extent that he was unable to permit Mephisto to have it. So Carter rode away with it and beat Satan himself. 150 years after the fact, in 1986, Johnny Blast and his dad Barton cooperate as trick bike riders, despite the fact that Barton is furious with Johnny on the grounds that he continues to get occupied by his better half Roxanne sitting in the crowd, which could cost him his life during a show. Barton's well-being is plainly decaying more consistently, yet he will not stop smoking, regardless of how frequently Johnny discards his cigarettes. One evening, Roxanne comes to converse with Johnny to share some staggering news. Her dad is sending her away to live with her mom. Johnny can't stand losing her and requests that she take off together. Roxanne excitedly concurs, and they intend to do it the following day. Later at night, while Barton is snoozing, Johnny finds a letter in the garbage from an emergency clinic, making sense of that Barton's malignant growth is spreading. Johnny can't completely accept that his father has been concealing something like this and starts to figure he will be unable to take off with Roxanne any longer, since leaving Barton like this sounds savage truly. His contemplations are unexpectedly hindered by Mephisto, who offers Johnny an arrangement. He will fix Barton's disease in return for the kid's spirit. Johnny doesn't completely accept that yet looks at the agreement of interest, making him incidentally cut his finger with the paper. The drop of blood that falls on it is enough for Mephisto to consider the arrangement fixed, and before Johnny can ask what he implies, he drops and gets up the following morning on his bed. Similarly, as Mephisto guaranteed, Barton's malignant growth is gone at this point. He's so amped up for this development that he's now arranging another show that might actually incorporate bouncing over a helicopter, and believes Johnny should go along with him. However, Johnny is preparing to take off with Roxanne. Now that his father is better, he doesn't require him any longer, and Johnny needs more in life than dumb tricks. Such words hurt Barton, however. He doesn't believe Roxanne's father should send the police after them either, so he permits Johnny to take his most dearest bicycle. At the point when Johnny is going to leave, he hears some upheaval coming from a tent and runs back to figure out his dad passed on during the show after Mephisto paid him a fast visit. Scared of what the agreement has gotten him into, Johnny rides away thinking about finishing things for himself. However, Mephisto stops him, since he really wants him alive. He likewise vows to return the future when he wants him. Prior to vanishing, he contacts Johnny and lights a fire inside him as he requests that he leave all that he cherishes behind. Scared of what this might mean, Johnny takes his bicycle and drives by Roxanne hanging tight for him, yet leaves her without offering a clarification. After 21 years in 2007, grown-up Johnny is a popular trick writer, known for how he's endure each and every fall. At the point when his tricks really do come up short is on the grounds that he continues to ponder Mephisto and the agreement. However, he attempts to persuade himself he isn't apprehensive. Johnny never gives meats, yet he's friendly with his voyaging team, particularly his closest companion Mac, who is stressed over Johnny needing to get the length free from a football field and vehicles. With one leap on the commemoration of Barton's mishap, there's likewise the reality Johnny's fixated on strange strict books that Mac thinks might be screwing with his brain. However, Johnny excuses his concerns, making sense of he's sitting tight for a sign. In the meantime, Mephisto's child Blackheart shows up on the planet and approaches a biker bar to kill each human inside. When everybody is dead, the secret appear. There are 3 fallen heavenly messengers reinforced with the component. There's Gressel with earth-based powers, Abigail with air-based powers, and Flounder with water-based powers. Blackheart believes them should assist him with finding the San Vinganza agreement to bridle its enormous power and assume control over the world, and the covered-up concur. Before they can get going, however, Mephisto appears outside to remind Blackheart it isn't his time yet. Yet Blackheart couldn't care less. Mephisto can't hurt him on Earth since he's rarely fallen, albeit the apparition writer can. Anyway, Blackheart isn't terrified of Mephisto's creation and thinks for even a second to send the man after him, despite the fact that he's plainly desirous over the reality his father provided such capacity to a human rather than him. The following day, Johnny is preparing for the show and overlooking correspondence, not surprisingly. However, he makes a special case when he finds a grown-up Roxanne has come to meet with him also. Rather than responding to her inquiries, however, Johnny continues to make his own on the grounds that he needs to understand what she's been doing such a long time. The meeting is stopped since it's going no place, and Roxanne leaves, regardless of how much her cameraman needs to remain on the grounds that she never loved watching Johnny bounce. Discussing Johnny, he considers seeing Roxanne the sign he's been hanging tight for, and chooses to go through his father's old thought of hopping over a lot of helicopters rather than vehicles. By supplanting the dim considerations with Roxanne, Johnny's leap is a complete achievement. However, rather than halting to observe, Johnny simply continues onward and drives out of the structure to get up to speed to Roxanne's van out and about. Since she won't pull over or even converse with him, Johnny speeds up ahead and blocks the street to make the van stop. This makes Roxanne enraged. However, Johnny calls attention to that on the off chance that Roxanne truly believed nothing should do with him, she would have turned down the meeting prior to kissing her. Roxanne drives him away yet additionally sees his point and acknowledges to eat together later. Sunsets and Roxanne is holding up at the cafe, stressed over the absence of messages from Johnny, who is as of now beautiful late. He's currently at his loft postponed on the grounds that he's seen his hands are getting very red and hot. There's likewise a strange voice calling out to him, and when he goes outside he finds Mephisto, who believes Johnny should stop Blackheart, since that is important for the agreement. Clearly Johnny declines and prepares on his bicycle to go on his date. However, the enchanted behind the agreement kicks in, and the bicycle unexpectedly gets shrouded on fire as it removes Johnny at a crazy speed, softening articles as they pass. In the interim, Blackheart and the covered-up show up at the neighborhood train station where there used to be a graveyard. Tales say the Sanvinganza contract was covered there. The station guardian makes sense of the graves were moved to a congregation burial ground and attempts to throw the gathering out, which destroys him by Blackheart. Back to Johnny, the bicycle takes him the whole way to a stockroom in the train station, where he at last loses all control, and the sorcery changes him into a fiery skeleton known as Phantom Rider. Blackheart tracks down him and doesn't treat him in a serious way enough to go after him at full power, so he sends Gressel after him prior to leaving. Johnny is more remarkable than he looks and effectively liberates himself from Blackheart's assault prior to hopping on Gressel, killing him in a moment with his unique fire chain. A while later, Johnny utilizes his new powers to change his bicycle into something all the more impressive and rides away until he finds a youngster being looted. Johnny stops the assault, and after the young lady securely takes off, he gets the hoodlum and utilizations his compensation gaze on him, a power that makes humans feel all the aggravation they have caused others, singing their spirit. The hoodlum has caused such a lot of harm to others in his life that he can't take judgment and passes on. Then Johnny continues to write until he comes to the neighborhood memorial park with perfect timing for the sun to rise, meaning he returns to ordinary the second he arrives at his dad's grave, ignorant that Carter Slade's likewise covered close by. There, he's found by the overseer, who takes Johnny to his little shack when he drops. A couple of hours after the fact, Johnny awakens with a cerebral pain. Yet Overseer tries to remind him all that happened the previous evening was genuine, and it will reoccur. So Johnny needs to deal with the reality being Phantom Rider's part of his life now. Guardian offers his assistance, and Johnny acknowledges after some delay, hence Overseer deals with Johnny's injuries, while enlightening him regarding the town of Sanvinganza, where every one of the residents' spirits were caught perpetually in the wake of killing each other over eagerness. In the meantime, Roxanne is covering the debacle at the train station for the news, meeting the team that nearly got looted, yet not accepting her when she portrays a skeleton on fire. After the meeting is finished, Roxanne is drawn closer by Johnny attempting to apologize. However, she doesn't acknowledge it, bringing up this is the subsequent time he's harmed her, and that perhaps her dad had been correct, he's simply a stage. While the police found a bicycle tag under all the rubble, Johnny gets back and keeping in mind that utilizing tips from his strict texts, he starts rehearsing to control his powers. His preparation is interfered with by Roxanne, who is leaving town soon and needs to apologize for the destructive things she expressed exclusively to wind up kissing him. Stressed over the entire apparition writer bargain, Johnny drives her away in light of the fact that he would rather not put her at serious risk. This infuriates Roxanne, who is fed up with Johnny's blended messages and powers him to admit what's happening. Clearly she doesn't really accept him and she gets much angrier when he requests that she leave in light of the fact that the sun is setting. So she's out of the entryway with her heart broken and expecting Johnny is simply concocting reasons to dispose of her. When Roxanne is gone, the police make an appearance to capture Johnny on the grounds that the tag they found was from his bicycle. At the police headquarters, the investigators attempt to pull off the great cop terrible cop stunt on Johnny and even compromise his vocation Yet since Johnny doesn't get bulldozed, he's placed in that frame of mind until he's prepared to admit. This cell is loaded with detainees anxious to thrash a celebrity. Yet when they draw nearer, night at long last falls, and Johnny becomes Phantom Rider once more, effectively taking out every one of the detainees with one single hit. With the exception of a high school kid with an unadulterated soul. In the wake of taking another prisoner's code, Johnny consumes the phone bars and escapes on his bicycle, disregarding the police that attempt to stop him by driving on water. In the meantime, Blackheart is visiting the cleric that, as far as anyone knows, safeguards the area of the San Venganza contract. However, the minister will not talk and winds up dead. Blackheart can likewise detect that Phantom Rider is coming after them, so he sends Abigail to stop him. This makes Johnny pursue the evil presence all around the city, while the police pursue him consequently. At the point when Abigail scales an exceptionally tall structure, Johnny does likewise on his bicycle. This is seen by Roxanne from her lodging and helps her beginning trusting the story. On the highest point of the structure, Johnny utilizes his chain to get the police helicopter and discards it prior to going to Abigail. Yet a similar stunt doesn't deal with him, since you can't get something made of air. Luckily, Johnny is a speedy mastermind and uses the chain to make a little fiery storm that retains Abigail and kills him in any case. Subsequently, he handles his bicycle in the roads and notification Roxanne in the inquisitive group. Yet he can't move toward her in light of the fact that the police disrupt the general flow. Their projectiles can't hurt Johnny, so subsequent to pushing them back with a massive fire, he rides securely away. When the sun rises, Johnny comes to the cemetery and asks Overseer for help. Subsequent to making sense of the entire story behind Carter Slade and the Taken agreement, Guardian reminds Johnny that Blackheart would successfully get him, including harming his friends and family, so Johnny surges back to the city to keep an eye on Roxanne. Meanwhile, the police are as yet attempting to track down Johnny and ask Roxanne for her assistance since she's near him. However, she claims to not know anything. A while later, Roxanne goes to Johnny's condo just to find Mac, who is attempting to figure out what's the deal with his dearest companion. Roxanne would rather not recount such a mind-boggling story. However, she acknowledges to investigate the strict texts for pieces of information with him. At the point when sun sets, Blackheart and Flounder visit Guardian and thump him up, attempting to inspire him to admit the area of the agreement. However, since Overseer doesn't break, Blackheart concludes he'll have to pursue Johnny. Minutes after the fact, he appears at the loft as well, and in the wake of killing Mac, he goes to Roxanne to figure out how to utilize her against Johnny. Discussing Johnny, he at last appears then and stirs something up against Blackheart. However, his repentance gaze doesn't deal with him since Blackheart doesn't have a spirit. Blackheart exploits this second to drive Johnny away and fix his change, then he hijacks Roxanne, while let Johnny know that he'll need to bring the San Venganza contract to see her once more. Minutes after the fact, Johnny is once again at the cemetery and persuades Guardian to give him the agreement, which had been concealing in his digging tool from the beginning. Since Johnny made his arrangement out of adoration and not avarice, Overseer believes he can end this and offers his assistance as he uncovers the Carter Slade grave as phony. It turns out Overseer is the genuine Carter. He actually has his Phantom Rider abilities, so he assembles his pony and rides with Johnny to direct him to San Venganza. Sadly, Overseer can't remain on the grounds that this is the last time he could change. Yet he gives Johnny a shotgun prior to leaving. The primary adversary that Johnny experiences is Flounder, who attempts to suffocate him in his bog. However, water can't hurt Johnny, and he utilizes his blazes to vanish the evil spirit. Then, Johnny pursues Blackheart, making him drop Roxanne prior to claiming to give him the agreement. This is only a stunt that sets off another battle. Yet since the sun is emerging, Johnny loses his powers and can't prevent Blackheart from getting the agreement and retaining the force of the multitude of spirits, changing him into Army. Johnny actually won't surrender and fires Army with his shotgun. Yet the slugs don't hurt him, and Army gets Johnny by the neck prepared to kill. Fortunately, he's saved by Roxanne, who recovers the shotgun and explodes Army's head, making him drop Johnny. While Army pauses for a minute to recover, Johnny takes the shotgun from Roxanne and figures out how to change it the same way he did with his bicycle, by placing it in the shadows, on the grounds that the issue is daylight itself, and in addition to the time. A shot from this fueled weapon explodes Army, and keeping in mind that he goes through recovery once more, Johnny watches the spirits changing the devil's body, which gives him a thought. By venturing into the shadows, he figures out how to change into Apparition Rider, and this time, he can utilize his compensation gaze, since now Army has huge number of spirits to be judged. By consuming every one of the bad spirits, Army passes on also. With their adversary crushed, Roxanne draws nearer and contacts the blazing face, demonstrating she isn't apprehensive about Johnny prior to kissing him. Unawed, they run over Mephisto, who compliments Johnny on nicely done and requests the apparition writer power back. Anyway, Johnny won't return it, since he doesn't maintain that it should fall in some unacceptable hands, so he'll keep it to safeguard the blameless. Sadly, this likewise implies Johnny can't have an ordinary life once more, so after Mephisto is gone, he expresses farewell to Roxanne, who is extremely understanding, since this is what Johnny has forever been. Several offers one final kiss before Johnny rides his bicycle toward the distant horizon to begin another life as the main Phantom Rider.